We all grew up learning that the lion is the king of the jungle. And now that we're not little anymore, we know just how vulnerable they are. In fact, when exposed to man's devices, lions are extremely fragile. The latest weapon being used against them is poison. Yes, poison. African herders, whose livestock and livelihood are threatened by lions, are killing them in the most effective and economical way they can. And overwhelmingly, that's by using a cheap American chemical called Furadan. It's marketed as a pesticide to be used for protecting crops, but it's bought by many to kill animals. And that's one reason why conservationists say Africa's lions are in trouble. We took a journey through the bush in Kenya to find out what's going on. We learned that 20 years ago, there were some 200,000 lions in Africa. Today, there are 30,000, and the numbers are going down all the time. Lions are being poisoned at a staggering rate. There's little chance that these cubs will make it to adulthood.
Are you suggesting that the lion in Kenya could become extinct?
I'm suggesting that the lion in Africa will become extinct.
That's the view of Dr. Lawrence Frank of the University of California, Berkeley. He's been following lions for the last 30 years, looking for ways to keep them alive. Elaine Cotterill, his colleague, needs to put a new collar on this lioness named Mara. She's about to dart her and put her to sleep.
Well done. She's down and out, huh?
Cotterill and Frank have less than an hour to do their work before Mara wakes up. The sleeping lion is a deceptively gentle creature. Her coat, which looks exquisitely smooth, is actually quite rough to the touch.
What a magnificent creature. And whiskers, just like in the movies.
Seeing those claws sink into soft, padded paws, you understand why she's such an efficient killer. But actually, she may be more afraid of us than we are of her.
They're very unlikely to actually attack us. There's been so many years of conflict with people in this area, it's almost hardwired into their system to be terrified of people.
With good reason. Over the millennia, people have speared, shot, trapped lions. Today, the primary culprit appears to be poison.
We know of 30-plus poisonings just in this area in the last 5 or 6 years. We have data on another 35 or 40 poisonings in our other study area elsewhere in Kenya, but that's got to be just the tiny tip of the iceberg.
Let me ask a more immediate question. What happens if Mara wakes up while we're still here?
Well, with any luck, she'll go that way and we'll go that way.
Mara is part of a pride which lives on Klaus Mortensen's ranch. 5 years ago, he found out just how devastating poison can be when he discovered that another of his prides had gone missing.
After a few days, vultures were seen circling on our northern boundary there. We went out and we found first one lion, then another, and then another.
7 in all. The lions had been vomiting, and there were no bullet wounds.
So you were sure these lions had been poisoned?
That we were.
Mortensen suspects that Furadan was responsible. It's one of the most toxic pesticides sold in Kenya, widely available and hard to detect because it dissipates quickly in poisoned animals. Lab tests, he says, ruled out any other poison. So why would anyone want to poison these glorious creatures? The first thing you need to know is that 70% of the country's wildlife is found outside the protected game reserves, on Kenya's vast plains, where wild animals and cattle mingle. Lions are there too, and that's where the trouble begins. The lions attack and eat the cattle. This area is inhabited by the Maasai people, who always had a way of dealing with that. The young men went out hunting lions with spears. It was a rite of passage. Anthony Kasanga was one of them.
What does it mean for a Maasai young man to kill a lion?
It makes you famous. You feel you get the whole community to know you because you killed a lion.
You're famous when you kill a lion?
Yeah. If you had one girlfriend, you get 20 more. You get 21.
You get 20 girlfriends. Yeah. So there's a lot of reason to kill a lion.
Yeah.
It's more than just having 20 girlfriends. Killing lions protects cattle. the very foundation of the Maasai's existence.
So when a cow is killed by a lion, it's a disaster.
It's a disaster.
And Anthony's job now is to avert that disaster and save the lion at the same time. He's a leading member of the Lion Guardians, a group of reformed Maasai warriors who keep track of collared lions and warn herders when the lions get too close to their cattle. Last year, they were too late in reaching an old herder whose cow had been killed. The herder laced the carcass with poison, knowing the lions would return to finish their meal. That night, Sengali and Birdie, two collared lions the Guardians knew well, feasted on it. If the carcass was poisoned with furidan, they wouldn't have suspected it because furidan has no taste and no smell. It didn't take long before the lions were found dead. Birdie was pregnant with 5 cubs.
So in other words, 7 lions
7
died.
lions dead.
Cows are a cash crop in Kenya. They put food on the table, they send kids to school. Mengistu Sekaret and his friends all lost cows to lions. That turned them into lion killers.
How do you kill the lion?
In a very silent way.
What is the silent way?
Actually using, we use the poison.
Use poison.
Yeah, poison.
And this works. This is effective.
Yeah, actually it's very effective.
And this is how effective the poison is. This lion could barely walk. Its nervous system was shutting down, so it was put down by vets from the Kenyan Wildlife Service who conducted an autopsy. The official government chemist's analysis found furidan in the lion's stomach. A subsequent report by the agency that regulates pesticides in Kenya did not mention that finding and claimed that furidan was not connected. When we asked Mengistu and his friends about furidan, they didn't recognize the name, but knew exactly what it looked like.
What do you call it amongst yourselves?
Yeah, we call it the blue stuff.
The blue stuff.
Yeah, that's the common name.
We showed them a bottle of furidan to make sure we were talking about the same thing.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. It's the one.
It's the one.
Yeah. Oh. Really, it's this one.
It's bluish, huh?
Yes, yeah, it's bluish.
And that's the one you use?
Yeah.
Mengistu and his friends wouldn't have any trouble finding furidan. It can be bought in towns and villages all over Kenya, in stores called agrovets, which sell agricultural products including pesticides. But when we tried buying furidan with our camera rolling, the shopkeepers told us they didn't have it in stock, so we decided to go undercover with a hidden camera.
Hello. You speak English?
Yeah.
Good. Do you have furidan?
Furidan, yes I have.
I'll take 1 bottle, please.
There was actually plenty of furidan on the shelves, and we were surprised that the storekeeper didn't ask what we wanted it for.
How much is it?
150.
It's $2. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Do many people buy furidan?
So many people buy Furidan.
So many people buy furidan. What do they use it for?
It seemed clear from stores we visited that shopkeepers knew furidan was not only used on crops. In fact, some stores which stocked furidan were in areas where there wasn't a crop for miles.
In its granular form, furidan is banned in Europe and the United Kingdom. It's severely restricted in the United States. Just a tiny amount from a $2 bottle like this one is enough to kill an entire pride of lions.
Furidan, even when used as directed, is estimated to have wiped out millions of birds in the United States. That's one of the reasons why the Environmental Protection Agency restricted its use and wants to ban it entirely. But in Africa, furidan is perfectly legal as a pesticide. However, when the granules are sprinkled on carcasses, any animal that feeds on them will die. Not just lions, hyenas, leopards, jackals, vultures, and other birds die in droves.
It's inexcusable to use furidan for killing animals. It wasn't designed for the purpose. It's grossly irresponsible to use it in that way.
Dr. Richard Leakey is the doyen of conservationists in Africa who spent years fighting for the preservation of Kenya's wildlife.
But you can understand why cattle farmers do use it.
I can understand why people rob banks. I mean, there are a lot of things I can understand. It's irresponsible to put on the market something that is so utterly dangerous to wildlife in a country where wildlife is so critical for our economic future.
Wildlife is in fact crucial for Kenya's economic future. Hundreds of thousands of tourists bring hundreds of millions of dollars to the country. But most Kenyans see very little of that, so there's little incentive to value the wildlife.
The amount of tourism that's here is not sufficient to offset the cost of these people living with wildlife.
Tom Hill is an American philanthropist who wanted to make wildlife worth something to the people. He and Richard Bonham, a Kenyan naturalist, recognized that time was running out.
It just became very clear, unless we stepped in and made some sort of intervention, we were going to lose the land.
So they began meeting Maasai to ask what it would take to stop killing lions.
The answer, as they gave it to us, is if you would pay us back for our lost livestock once it's been killed by predators and we can replace it, then we would quit killing them.
You know, that's what you're doing.
That's what we're doing. I mean, you know, they don't hate lions, they hate the economics of lions.
So Hill and Bonham set up a fund to compensate the Maasai for their livestock losses. Teams of monitors crisscross the countryside to inspect dead cattle and reimburse the owners if they don't poison the lions. The program has achieved some success, but covers only a small area. Throughout the rest of Kenya, the poisoning goes on.
How do you stop farmers from doing it?
You stop farmers by using unregulated chemicals, by not having the chemical on the market. You ban the product.
But the Kenyan government hasn't banned the product. The company that makes it, FMC, declined our request for an interview, but said in a written statement that Furidan is important to the sustainability of agriculture in Kenya, that their labels clearly illustrate its proper use, and that they condemn the illegal use of their products to kill predatory wildlife. But does it have to be a choice between cubs and corporations? There are other ways to protect cattle without using lethal chemicals. But for these cubs to grow up to be the splendid creatures they can be, Furidan cannot be part of their future. The maker of Furidan, FMC, told us that in response to reports of poisonings last year, they suspended all exports to Kenya. Last month, we went back to check if it was still on sale. Even without new shipments, we found that in some of the shops it was still on the shelves. FMC continues to export it to neighboring countries where lions are also disappearing.